We have started to review the different levels of intimacy from the last episode, and there are 7 of them. Do you remember? Physical intimacy, social intimacy, financial intimacy, intellectual intimacy, sexual intimacy, spiritual intimacy, and parental intimacy, in no particular order. On this episode, we will conclude the remaining 4 levels of intimacy. Join me. Thank you for joining me today on Staying Married Podcast with Mo. We started reviewing the different levels of intimacy in the last episode, and today we will be concluding on that topic. We had started with the first 3 and we will conclude with the last 4. So the next one is intellectual intimacy, and this is at the level where we're able to speak intelligently. What kind of conversations do you have with your spouse? What is the quality of your conversations? I have heard many guys, maybe not necessarily married, single ones, complain and say, gosh, that baby is just so empty. You talk about this one, she doesn't have an idea. You raise this topic, no idea. I mean, are you paying attention to your ability to converse, make meaningful conversation with your spouse, not even necessarily with, other people? Because interestingly, what we are able to talk about, the quality of the things that you talk about, the quality of your conversation, would determine the quality of your marriage. There are many people who, when the only time that they talk to their spouse is when they're either talking house rent, bills, food supplies, groceries, or maybe the kids once they start having kids. And you just realize that, wait a minute, we never really talk about anything interesting or anything outside of running the home. What interests you? What books are you reading together? What messages are you listening to? And these are ways where you can intellectually stimulate one another and stimulate a conversation. There are many people who, because they're unable, and most men find themselves in this situation. You find the man who is doing so well at work, and then you have the instance where his secretary, his PA is the one who is able to catch his attention because she just knows things. She's one step ahead. She's, figuring out okay, so you have this meeting, this is what you need. She's just able to, find value, make herself valuable in his life. Yes, you may not be his PA, you may not be in his work, you have much more value to give at home, but are you able to engage your spouse at that intellectual level? There are men who require very highly intellectual. So again, you need to understand your spouse. If your husband is highly intellectual, you've got to up your game. What interests him? Do you know about stocks? Your husband is the CEO of a company. He needs to understand what stock market is saying, what the economy is saying, what fiscal policy, what policies the government making. How are you able to even hear those things? You don't necessarily need to know the meaning, but even reading about it and being able to bring up conversation to say, oh my love, so I saw this thing, what does it mean? Does it have any impact on your business? You have given him room to give you, the man would just come alive, that my woman is interested in my business. You don't need to be a guru, you don't need to be vast, you don't need to be a lecturer, you don't even need to know it. You just need to show enough interest such that you can stimulate your husband's intellectual capability. This is so critical and important so that you can have a lot more interesting things to talk about. And it's not just the basic numb things. Nothing exciting. Read a book. Start a challenge. Who is the first to finish a book? How many books can you read in a month? How many books are you going to read in a quarter? Find exciting ways. And these things, spice up your marriage. Showing interest, intellectually stimulating. Now, not everybody is at the same intellectual level. That is given, and that plays out many times. Sometimes both husband and wife have the same intellectual capacity, and at the same level they can relate well. But even at that, you have to intentionally connect at that level. And it's not about one being better than the other. So if you are more gifted intellectually than your spouse, find ways to get them to be able to relate with you. If you are reading this thing, bring it home. Ask them to read. Oh, do you want to go? I want you to go through this thing. I'd like for us to talk about it. You find something interesting, share briefs, share journals, share the things that interest you. Because you are safeguarding yourself when you build intimacy on this level. Because if you think that, my wife is just not interested, have you made the effort to even help her? Have you as a wife also made the effort to find out what interests your spouse? And just, draw out that card and, start to talk about things, and he's looking at you and saying, okay. And interestingly, we are in the computer age. You can find out information about everything online. What are you using your phone for? What are you checking on Google? You hear him talk about words that you are probably not familiar with. Google it up. Like, oh, my love, I heard you speak about this thing. What did it mean? How does it impact you? Just giving people the opportunity to talk about what they do validates them. Intellectual intimacy is also a very, very critical place that people don't pay attention to. And when you, on all these levels, when you feel like you're not connecting with your spouse, you would naturally try to find a replacement. And that's how you get into unnecessary tangles and friendships that you begin to nurse that is of no value to you. So we must pay attention to our intellectual intimacy. Let's learn to stimulate ourselves. Share materials to read. Don't be docile. Challenge yourselves, even within your family, with your kids when you do have them. Oh, let's do a reading challenge. How many pages can you finish in a day? How many pages? Just find ways to intellectually stimulate one another so you can have deep conversations. You can talk about things happening around the world, around the globe, as they affect you, beyond just the basal money for rent, money for food, money for landlord, and all of those things. There is so much more that we can do in infusing life, infusing excitement, and making our marriages a great experience. The next thing that we'll talk about is sexual intimacy, and this one is one that everybody likes to talk about. But to talk about sexual intimacy, I will just read a portion of the scripture for you. And for me, this is the answer to it. I'm reading from 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 3 and 4. And it says, this is an NKJV. Let the husband render to his wife the affection due her, and likewise also the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another, except with consent for a time. So, sexual intimacy. Now, this is perhaps, well, not the most important really, but it's one of the biggest things that causes conflict in marriage. Without sexual fulfillment, it's usually very difficult, to enjoy marriage. It's not the only thing that is required to make a great marriage, but when it is absent, a huge part of marital fulfillment is absent. So you must pay attention. And it's not about whether you're a pro or you're an amateur. It's about giving yourself to your spouse. That scripture says your body is not yours. And I'm going to shake tables now. For women who go, oh, I'm tired, I can't. Your body is not yours. So you cannot be tired to have sex with your husband. You cannot be not in the mood to have sex with your husband. You cannot be, well, I'm angry. He's offended me, and so you are going to use that as the bait or as a weapon of revenge. All of these things are not godly acts. Sex is beautiful. Sex is such a unifier. In fact, if you pay attention to physical intimacy, social intimacy, until it culminates in your sexual intimacy, it makes the bedroom exciting. Hello, sir, listening to me. Your body is not yours. It belongs to your wife. It is her property. The same way our body is your property. When we understand these things clearly, so you cannot carry it and go and meet another woman. It's not yours. Give to your wife the affection due her. Many times when we get into marriage and we start to have kids, sexual libido goes down. You're thinking of money, school fees, house rent, all the bills and everything. And there is the tendency to not think about it and just feel like, well, maybe it's just sex. No, it's not just sex. It is important that you give to yourself attention, passion, the opportunity to become one. Sex is spiritual. Okay, so for my single listeners, pardon me, today we have to talk this way because it's what it is, right? It's spiritual. You have to pay attention to what goes on in your bedroom because it is important. When you see a sexually satisfied man, there's nothing that you're likely to offer him. Let me take a moment to speak to my women. Please pay attention to what satisfies your husband. And please be bold to also let your husband know what satisfies you. Communicate. Because you have to be both satisfied. It's not about procreation. Sex is not for procreation. QED. Procreation is a byproduct. Ajasa, like we say in Yoruba. But the essence of sex is the togetherness, that you come together and be one. Spirit, soul, and body. It may interest you to know that the process of ejaculation and is blood exchange. So your soul is becoming together, becoming one. It is such a beautiful moment. We are not doing sex talk today, But it's important that we pay attention, because it's such a huge, powerful weapon that the enemy is using against marriages. Please pay attention to your sexual life. Build intimacy. And it's the reason why sexual intimacy is coming here. It doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts from outside. Because if you have not touched me as a woman, you've not said I'm looking nice, I'm smelling nice, you've not complimented me, I'm not likely to be in the mood when I get into the room. Now, it works differently for both man and woman. A woman wants to, you put her in the mood. A man can be ready anytime. So all of these things play. You play together, you find time to, do your physical touch, you take activities together, you talk, by the time you get into the bedroom, it's a solemnization party between man, woman, and the Spirit of God. Ecclesiastes says that a 3-cord strand cannot be easily broken. So it's you with your spouse and the host of angels. It's such a beautiful experience. You don't want to be, you can't even have those experiences outside of your bedroom if it's not with you. And your bedroom is where it is you and your wife. So you guys and you can do it in the bathroom, it can be in the bathtub, it can be on the couch, it can be on the kitchen, anywhere you choose. It's your bedroom, it's your sanctuary. Do you see? Man, wife, and the Spirit of God. Sexual intimacy. Please pay attention. I think I'll perhaps, take this as a full day episode where we really just talk about these things, because a lot of couples have challenges around here. How do you really get to connect with your spouse? There are so many things that people can deal with, prior experiences. If you've been victims of rape, some people they're just unable to give themselves. So I do understand that there are challenges that people face, but seek help, right? Seek help. But understanding that your body is not yours, it belongs to your spouse, is the first breakthrough that you require. Knowing that I have to give of myself wholly and fully, holding nothing back, vulnerable. And they were both naked, man and woman. They were not ashamed. In all of the glory of your beauty, flaws and all, everything beautiful, imperfections and everything. Sexual intimacy is powerful. It's a powerful tool. You must connect. Pay attention. And if you have challenges, seek help. Pray about it. Because you can pray. Oh, absolutely. You can pray. You can pray about your sexual life. You can pray about your libido. You can pray about your sexual drive. You can pray about it. Prayer works. All right, so moving on to spiritual intimacy. This one, I mentioned already to you that sex is spiritual. So when you're able to connect at the level of your sexual intimacy, you must create the time. That's spirituality, oneness. What's spiritual connection? Is that you're able to agree together. Is that you become one. You see, so as you continue to engage in that holy, beautiful sexual relation in spiritual harmony, you can ask anything. You're a formidable force. It says one will chase 1,000, 2 tens of thousands. Is that arithmetic or geometric arithmetic progression or geometric progression? It's just that maths. You can't explain it. It's a mystery. And all of these intimacies, it's work that you put in layer upon layer. that you agree together, you become one. So when you hold hands and decree concerning a thing, decree concerning your finances, decree concerning your children, decree concerning your career, decree concerning your job, you will see results. That's the power that you have been given. It says that two would agree concerning a thing and it will be established. And the last one that we'll talk about is parental intimacy. A lot of people don't even pay attention to this one at all, but it's so important. And many times, that we are adults that have grown with different experiences from different backgrounds, and certainly our parenting styles will differ. And so you have instances where a parent believes in corporal punishment. You want to beat the child, spare the rod and spoil the child. Another one believes you must unify, and it means that you must talk about it and share your beliefs. Now, when you are parenting your kids, even in instances where you don't agree with things, it's not in that moment that you are correcting your spouse. You have to be able to talk about this thing. This plays out more as you advance. Your kids are growing up. You are having to instill discipline, and you find those varying ideas and opinions play out as your kids go through life in different stages. You must agree together, and it's easier to then experience parental intimacy when all the other levels of intimacy have been built on. Do you see? When you have worked on your physical intimacy, you enjoy each other's company, you go out together, you're able to talk and have intellectual conversations, your sex life is great, you're spiritually connected, there is no room for any breakage or nothing. You are in sync. Then it's easier to then also connect at the level of parenting and agree concerning your children's destiny, agree concerning what, how they will turn out, and how you pray over them, and how you help them also find their own way in life. So before we round off on today's episode, I'll just leave you with one thing. What one thing can you do to be able to pay attention and build intimacy across these 7 pillars? 1, for physical intimacy, be playful. Just play together. Introduce play into your marital relationship, into your friendship. Be each other's friends and play. Be kids again. Tickle one another. Gosh, it's fun. For social intimacy, go out together, find reasons. If there is no function, if there's no ashwebi, just go on a dinner date, set up a date, plan properly, dress up, and just be seen together in public. Be proud of one another. If he doesn't know how to dress well, dress him up. It's just acceptability of being proud of what you've got. This is my man, I'm proud of it. I don't know about you. So go out together and enjoy each other's company. For financial intimacy, please sit down and plan. Be open with your finances. Plan your future together. What do I earn? What do I want to earn? How are we able to increase our income? How do we reduce our expenses? What's the plan for our children? Just plan together and be open. That's the key. Intellectual intimacy, how do you build that? Read together. Share knowledge materials. What will be beneficial? Share common interests. Listen to podcasts. Listen to messages. Be intentional about just stimulating each other's intellectual capacity. And for sexual intimacy, it's just one word: prioritize your sex life. Nothing, just make it a priority. No timetable, but it's a priority because it will fuel your life. and fill your marriage. Spiritual intimacy, pray together. And for parental intimacy, agree and raise your children in one voice. I am certain that this has been an absolute blessing. I would love to hear from you on the learnings and how this has helped your relationship. Please write to me at moakpara@gmail.com or thismarriagebusiness@gmail.com. I remain your one true friend, Mo. See you next time.